No. Yeah, starting.
No, now it is starting. These are the four states of matter on the physical plane.
So what he
The
is
five,
talking about, the four states are, so you take the physical earth, he said solid substrate, right? Then
yeah,
you take the psychic, it is fluid solid, so moon. Then the airy solid substrate is the solar, and the radiant solid is the rest of it. The earth, the moon, the stars, and then the sun, I think. Let us see, he would have listed it there anyway. So he is talking about these four.
okay.
Yeah.
The fire extends from the center of the outermost portion through the earthy ring and through the fluid and the airy masses.
Hmm.
The earthy shell is the supported and maintained by the other three states of matter, and the four move through it as a fourfold stream of breath.
Hmm.
The apparent contradiction that the three outer layers are one with the three inner layers is due to people being acquainted only with the one dimension out of four. So we always think only one
One
solid.
direction dimension instead of the four. Yeah.
Their sight reaches only surfaces. They know only surfaces. They live on surfaces. Their thoughts are about surfaces. The surface dimension is onness. If people became conscious of the other dimensions, the earth would not look as it is now does now.
Correct. It would not look honest. That means it will not look physical.
That's why in Richard Bach's, not Richard, that illusions, he
Hmm.
says you can walk through the wall, depending upon how you think. In that book, he mentions illusions book.
Yeah.
It would not even look as if in layers, but would be a mass of fire containing, pervading, and supporting a smaller mass of air, containing, pervading, and supporting in its turn a lesser mass of water, containing, pervading, and supporting the hollow earth crust. So it is all like a mixture and all together and combination. But to one who saw the four dimensions, this description would be insufficient. There would be no globe or layers or masses, nor would the solid layer on which is the outside crust be a ball.
Hmm.
The solid layer extends as an atmosphere of diffused particles of matter beyond its compacted state into the fluid layer. The atmosphere of solid particles extends to the moon. The
Hmm.
moon is a body in the zone of water, and this zone extends to the sun. The sun is a body and center in the airy layer which extends to the stars. These are bodies in the zone of fire. The planets are bodies in the zones of water and air. Wow. The planets are bodies of the zones of water
That is
and
what I think he explains here. What are the four layers? The same paragraph he has repeated here.
and the physical plane of temporal. Yeah, yeah. The stars in the radiant solid, the solar universe in the airy solid, the moon in the fluid solid, earth in the solid substance of the solid matter.
That is how they are. Yeah.
Yeah, stars are radiant solid, yes. So these are bodies in the zone of fire. The planets are bodies of the zones of water and air. What is called the space through which the earth moves around the sun is matter more closely compacted than the earth, through which the earth moves like a fish through the water.
Hmm.
In the region of the stars is little sunlight and less moonlight and earth light. Uh-huh. Little sunlight, less moonlight, and earth sun. So most of it is starlight.
Hmm.
In the sun is the starlight and sunlight, but little moonlight and less earth light. And in the solar spaces, That is, in the area around the sun, there is hardly any moonlight or earth light. So around the sun, okay, because of its bright sun, yeah, it has hardly any moonlight or earth light.
Just a
There is
minute.
a
Are they really talk about the visible light over here? I think in more talking about the frequencies there,
There
because
are
visible
two
light, sun
frequencies.
is exactly, because otherwise, uh, moon is only reflecting the sun's light, and sun has got a brighter light because it's closer to us. These are all referring to the frequencies, not the actual light as we understand.
Correct. No, it's not the physical light.
Correct.
Not the physical light. Solid state or
the one
sun, moon.
talking about
Yeah.
four
So here,
substrates
what
of the
is he
sun.
talking about is this figure.
Okay, correct.
Yeah.
So solid substrate, the earth and the visible part
Are
of
the
the physical.
four substrates that make up the universe? Or no, that make up the physical dimension.
Okay, first one is earth, next moon, next solar, next stars.
These are all parts of the solid state. The solid state. See, you got the fire, four states, right? The radiant state, all that. And then the solid state, which itself is consisting of substates. These are all the four substates of the solid state.
What is the top one? Solid state of matter. Okay.
That's
So
the
this
that's the
The
set.
solid
That's
state
the
of
whole set. The
matter,
other
which is
subset.
the solid, which is the solid, right? So solid state has got four substates, which is the radiant solid, airy solid, fluid solid, and solid solid.
So the top one is invisible one. The bottom one is
This is the entire solid state.
This is the set. This is the set called solid.
Correct. This is solid.
Correct. Okay, the top one is this. Okay, this is the substrate. Got it.
So that is why each substrate is extending up to the zone itself. The entire water zone, entire this one, they are all intermingled. Okay. There is a constant circulation.
There is a constant circulation of the masses of the units of the four states of matter. They circulate in a stream which is fourfold when it passes through the earth crust. Each of the parts comes in from its own layer. The course of the stream is from the stars through the sun, through the moon, through the earth to the corresponding layers and back again. Starts the sun to the moon to the earth. The sun is the general center and focus of the fourfold stream. Starlight radiant matter is everywhere, but it has centers which are the stars, and a stream of it enters the solar focus. A stream of it enters the solar focus.
Okay. So what starlight radiant matter is everywhere. Okay, but it has centers which are the stars, and a stream of it enters the solar focus. Okay. That means the radius of solar, that region of solar. Okay.
Yeah, the sun centers also its own light, airy matter, and moonlight, fluid matter, and earth light, solid matter. Sun centers also its own light, airy matter, and
All
moonlight,
four,
fluid.
all four states of the solid matter.
As the stars attract and are centers for a starlight, so the sun acts for sunlight, and the moon for moonlight, and the earth crust for earthlight. There are thus four lesser currents which make up the main or fourfold current that goes through the sun to the earth. There are thus four lesser currents which make up the main or fourfold current that goes through the sun to the earth. The sun sucks in starlight and sunlight directly. It does not, in the same manner, take in moonlight and earth light. Mhm.
Probably because of
Okay.
the distance. It
The moon is the
comes so
focus.
it can only radiate, it gives them the light.
Looks like that. The
The focus,
next two paragraphs will tell us.
the moon focus and center for the layer of moonlight and sends that into the stream of starlight and sunlight that is pumped from the sun to the earth. So moon is the focus at the center of for the layer of moonlight and sends that into the stream of starlight and sunlight.
Correct.
So radiating, that is the moonlight center that is pumped from the sun to the earth. The moon also sucks in earth light and pours that with its own light into the sunlight that goes to the earth. So here moon plays a major role in giving up light to the earth and to the sun also. The moon also sucks earth light and pours that with its own light into the sunlight. So that means earth also giving out lot of light according to him. Yeah.
See,
Naturally, all this might
see,
hypothesis
all of
about
them
light.
have got the fairy element, no?
Yeah. Correct.
So that fairy element has to translate itself into light.
Yeah. So we always think, we are getting only from sun and moon and stars. Thus, it is made up of fourfold stream that goes through everything on the outer surface of the earth. On the earth, it circulates as a fourfold stream. It goes back to the moon, which cleanses, modifies, and regulates the earth light and the moonlight, which then go with the purified sunlight and starlight to the solar focus.
That means it goes to the, after purification, it goes to the solar focus. Okay.
According to him, it circulates a fourfold stream, goes back to the moon, which cleanses. So in the moon, it cleanses, modifies, and regulates the earth light and the moonlight, which then go with the purified sunlight and starlights to the solar focus. There, the moonlight and the earth light are vivified. That means renewed. That's what we think. There, the moonlight and the earth light are vivified, and the sunlight and starlight stream on their own layers.
Okay. There the moonlight and earthlight are vivified. Okay. In the
Starlight
solar
stream.
focus. Okay.
Hmm?
No, that is the solar focus he is talking about. In the solar focus. See, he is talking about
Yeah.
the earth, it circulates as fourfold stream. It goes back to the moon, which cleanses, modifies, and regulates the earth light and the moonlight, which then go with the purified sunlight and starlight to the solar focus. So, there in the solar focus, the moonlight and earthlight are vivified, are regenerated, regenerated, whichever way, and the sunlight and the starlight stream onto their own layers. So, sunlight and starlight go respectively to the star focus and the sun focus. That is what it will mean.
Correct.
This,
This fourfold stream of radiant, airy, fluid, and solid units is the fourfold physical breath that comes and goes through all things on the earth crust and builds, preserves, and destroys them. This fourth stream of radiant, airy, that is the fourfold physical breath. So basically, okay. This breath is kept in circulation by the fourfold physical breath of human beings, which is the active side of their breath forms. It is the breath of human beings that keeps the starlight active among the most distant stars, that breathes the sunlight through the sun, that drives the moonlight through the moon, and that causes the fourfold breath stream to flow into and out of the sun, the moon, and the earth. Amazing.
so it is the human breath that is actually keeping all these things in circulation.
Yeah.
Please let me add here. See, don't,
Hmm.
you should not take this very literally. Think about the concept behind it. Why is this so? It is, we are looking at from our, we are the breath from at the moment. So this is all, this is what our understanding is. It is our breath from through, it is our breath from, we understand all these things like these breath, sunlight, and then the moonlight, etc., etc. You must look at it from a very conceptual point of view. Don't take it literally. If it was a different animated in a multiverse, it may be very different. For them, it is from their perspective. Everything is the concept of our breath form.
No,
So
that is true, sir. But then,
our understanding of breath, our understanding of breath, when he says it is the breath of human beings that keeps the star active among the most distant stars. For whom? For us. For us, it's conceptual. That
no,
breathes the
but
sunlight through the star.
why don't
They
we?
don't. No, see, these are all energy.
I agree. What I'm trying to
Our breath is
say
also an
is
energy. It's look at it.
no,
So don't take it
the same
literally.
breath, but then the same breath is there in the astral world. It is there in all the four of
Yes,
what we
correct,
call
correct.
planes. Correct. What is moving
Breath.
it through the planes is connected through the human being because nature cannot receive any light on its own.
That's the point. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
Human beings are what? It's our breath. So we are talking about it. Like in quantum physics, say it is the observation. When we think about it, that is the relationship. Whether with
True.
objects or human beings too, that is the relationship that is there.
Correct.
Yeah, basically
It
human
is, it
beings.
is not something absolute out there.
No, it's not, sir. When it
Exactly.
comes to energy, we can't put it in absolute terms the way we
Exactly. That's what,
understand it. Yeah.
that is what I'm trying to say. So don't take it literally. That's how it will mean. It implies that it's absolute. It's not.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Basically, human beings' breath is the total the earth breath, isn't it? It's because the earth consists of all these human beings. So we can take also as it is the earth breath, physical breath.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it is in terms of energy, it is true. It's a bit quantum theory. Yeah. It is the breath of human beings that keeps the starlight active among the most distant stars, that breathes the sunlight through the sun, that drives the moonlight through the moon, and that causes the fourfold breath stream to flow into and out of the sun, moon, and the earth. This
The
fourfold
other way
stream
to look at it is the nature side with the what do you call the intelligent side. Those are the two areas where the breath is actually connecting.
You're right. Yep. That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
This fourfold stream circulates outside as the arterial and venous blood. Did I finish this?
As the
Yeah,
venous blood does.
Yeah.
yeah. And this fourfold stream circulates outside as the arterial and venous blood does inside the human body and envelops and penetrates all things on the earth crust.
Correct.
This makes it very clear.
Correct. This message is very clear.
If you look at the entire universe, this is like the venous blood that flows through across all the veins.
Yeah, correct.
Then it leaves behind some of the units.
It leaves behind some units, those that are caught and carried away, others, those that are not, that are no longer held.
Hmm.
So it leaves behind some units in the sense like not in the circulation.
Probably the way I understand, probably the next one will explain. Probably it doesn't carry forward any of those that get balanced.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel.
Unbalanced units.
Correct.
Okay.
No, 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 no. The next sentence clearly explains this. Just see that.
The units that are held so as to be the mass of a thing, that which is seen are coming and going. The units that are held so as to be the mass of a thing, that which is seen are coming and going. This mass appears to be permanent, but it is not.
That's it.
Okay. The physical bodies of human beings are the centers around which all turns and through which all circulates.
All the units circulate through the human body. Okay. What does that mean? He's explaining that.
Without human physical bodies, what is known to human beings as nature would cease to act. Yeah.
Correct.
There would be no phenomena, no colors, no sounds, no forces, no beings, no things celestial or terrestrial. Physical matter would be a standstill. The physical universe is an expression, projection, and extension of the human body.
Hmm.
The solid earth crust is the sex, the moon is the kidneys, and its atmosphere the adrenals, the sun is the heart, and its atmosphere the lungs. The planets are other organs, and the stars are the brain and nervous system of the universe on the fourfold physical plane of the physical world.
So,
This is what?
no. This is very interesting. The reason I am saying it is interesting is this is the spiritual anatomy that we need to consider of our.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is the
It's
spiritual anatomy of
how
how.
we are the whole universe.
Correct.
So the solid earth crust is the sex, the moon is the kidneys, and its atmosphere the adrenals. So the moon's atmosphere is the adrenals, the sun is the heart, and its atmosphere is the lungs. The planets are other organs, and the stars are the brain and nervous system of the universe on the fourfold. So basically, the stars and the planets are the stars and the brain and the nervous system. And also, he said the stars also the nerve neurons. He said the
Correct.
neurons represent stars.
Yes. But there's a reason why I'm just copying it. This is required for the research related work. So let's continue.
Okay, the fourfold breath goes through all human bodies as the generative or fire breath, the respiratory or air breath, the circulatory or water breath, and the digestive or earth breath, which ebb and flow in their respective systems, the upper three breaths pervading the earth breath. Fire as a generative system, air as a respiratory, water as circulatory of the blood and the fluids. The fire breath or starlight comes along the nerves of the eye and generative system.
So
Along the
fire breath
eye.
is the starlight.
The fire breath or starlight comes along the nerves of the eye and generative system. The air breath or sunlight along the nerves of the ear and respiratory system. Why? Along the ear, it enters. Okay. The water breath or moonlight along the nerves of the tongue and circulatory system. And the earth breath or earth light along the nerves of the nose and digestive system. The fire breath goes out along the nerves of the testicles and prostate or of the ovaries and womb. The air breath along the nerves of the heart and lungs. The water breath along the nerves of the adrenals, kidneys, and bladder, and the earth breath along the nerves of the stomach, intestines, and anus.
So this explains the prana, apana, udana, samana, and vyayana. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
So this
Water breath.
here he is listing all the 10 along with the sub breaths also.
Correct. The water breath along the nerves of the adrenals, kidneys, and bladder, and the earth breath along the nerves of the stomach, intestines, and anus. At the same time, these breaths come in and go out through the pores of the skin also. Yeah. The breath swings in from above while they swing out from below, and swings in below when they go out above. So basically, it's circulation. In the body, the heart is the center for the air breath, which is the carrier and mixer of all the breaths, and there is another center in the physical atmosphere outside of the body. Oh, another center in the outside the body where it mixes.
So that
The
should be
mixing
the
and
etheric body. I think that he is referring to the etheric body. Let's read it again.
the breaths swing in from the above while they swing out from below, and swing in below when they go out above. In the body, the heart is the center for the air breath, which is the carrier and mixer of the breaths, and there is another center in the physical atmosphere outside the body. The
Hmm.
mixing and distribution of the four breaths is done chiefly by the heart, corresponding to the sun, and secondarily by the kidneys, corresponding to the moon.
Okay.
The The breath that is noticed in breathing is the air breath only. The other three breaths which it carries are not noticed. It is like pranapana, the other
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. Correct.
The breath of human beings comes and goes many times in a minute. It causes the fourfold breath of the earth crust to come and go every few hours, which is the earth crust, the fourfold breath, and the water breath of the moon to come and go as ebb and flow twice a day. Oh, and the solar breath to come and go twice a year.
Hmm.
The
So
speed of the
twice a
radiant,
year we discussed last time. It was the Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, right?
correct.
Uh,
Yes.
the other one, twice a day is morning to afternoon. I think daytime and night time.
Day
It
and
lasts
night.
to 12 hours and 12 hours.
Yes.
So
Breath of the moon.
to
That's
do
why it's
something
dark
with the
and
circadian rhythm then. It causes the
yes.
fourfold breath of the earth crust to come and go every few hours. That is the circadian rhythm, 2 hours for each of the organ, right? I mean, what is that? The body bioclock.
Yeah. That is what circadian did. Yeah, correct.
Correct.
And
That's how
also,
it's connected.
yeah,
Then
there
is
is
this really thinking and destiny, sir? This now slowly looks like.
and also in every 1 hour the breath changes from one noddy to the other, from
Correct.
one nostril to yeah. That's what he's talking about. The speed of the radiant, airy, fluid, and solid units in the solar breath is immeasurably greater than that in the human breath.
Hmm.
Wow. Speed of the radiant, airy, fluid, and solid units in the solar breath, which is every few hours it's going in.
Yeah.
So
Nevertheless,
it's immeasurably greater than that in the human breath. Nevertheless, the human organs are so geared with the celestial bodies that there is a constant reaction between them.
hmm,
That's true. Very true.
So the human organs are so geared with the celestial bodies that there is a constant reaction between
no,
them.
that means, see, we need to read this in conjunction with the bioclock.
So what does he mean celestial bodies here?
Everything celestial bodies, all the planets, the stars, the moon,
All
everything.
those are
See,
celestial body. Whatever is
see,
not
let,
physical body is the celestial body. Simple terms.
let me just explain. See, the whole thing, the mass started with the quarks. You heard of the quarks, the basic fundamental particle, which then related into the atoms and nucleus and so on and so forth. Even each celestial body, as well as the parts of the human body, are made of the same quarks. Let's understand.
Okay.
That is what is impressed upon.
So
They're
quarks,
all
how
the
do
same.
you spell that word?
QUARK, quark,
Oh, QARK. Okay. Quarks.
quarks.
Okay. Okay. Got
Nevertheless, the human organs are so
So
geared with
actually,
the
it's very interesting if you study this. As I more look at thinking this, you in conjunction with astrophysics, you get a lot more to understand these things. There's a lot of blending there.
Okay.
The celestial science and the human science here. That is where the concept
the
of multiverse also comes in.
Right.
The fourfold physical breath flows from conception by means of the mother's breath until birth, and then by independent breathing until death. The fourfold current builds up the fourfold body, maintains it, and destroys it when individual breathing having ceased. Outside breath carries the fleeting units into their element. That is, outside breath is the energy bodies other than physical bodies.
The units.
The units, okay. Yeah.
Okay, the units on the nature side and the intelligence side, all those units that are comprising the atmosphere of the physical world.
Yeah. Can we take that? Okay. When there is a conception for the new body, the swing of the physical breath that was suspended begins again where it left off.
Okay. So
So
this is the reincarnation relationship he is bringing in. At death,
yes.
the entire human body, the vehicle disintegrates, becomes animals and nature, animals and plants. And when he is to take birth again, those parts come together so that they can continue from where they left.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, last night we read that we leave it, and when we leave the body, it goes into
Correct. See, look at the synchronicity, the way it is going. There are two tracks of thinking and destiny. One is in the psychic destiny, the other one is in the noetic destiny, how they are integrated. As we are reading the same chapter or the same topic in both the places.
Yeah, yesterday clearly he mentioned, it goes into the animals and the plants.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole row of lives.
One question.
Yeah.
Balaman, one question. Chandraguru, that they left her and pick up the same place. Is talking about the Kundalini? They're gonna pick up that
No. I'm talking about the physical body.
Okay. All right. Continue. Thank you, man. Thank you, God.
So the whole row of lives of human beings of a doer is a unity because of the continuity which is provided by the AIA when it revives the form breath.
Or the new breath form.
Just a second.
The cycle of birth and death.
Yeah.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, is it telling of the rebirth, sir?
Yes.
Where-
Yes.
Now, see what happens at death. Once your physical body disintegrates, it mixes with nature, correct?
Okay.
After mixing with nature, it becomes the part of animals and plants.
Okay. Sir.
And when you are to take birth, that animal and plant will perish and give those components back to you
Okay, sir.
to make
Okay.
your new body. That is what he is saying.
Okay.
Wow.
Thank you, sir.
So let's continue.
Yeah. Just a second.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm trying to see, because I'm a Bhagavad Gita teacher, I'm trying to manage the students.
Okay.
Fourth civilization. Fourth civilization
Fourth
changes on the crust. It forces minerals, plants, and flowers. The varied types were produced by human thoughts. So the changes on the earth crust, it forces minerals, plants, and flowers. The varied types were produced by human thoughts.
These are the topics that are going to be covered.
Yeah. How it happens. Since this fourth civilization began, there have been many changes on the earth crust. Rocks, soils of different kinds composed it at different times. Changes in the surface distribution of land and water have been numerous. They were made during
Upheavals and submersions.
They were made slowly during long periods or by sudden elemental changes which brought about the same results. Changes which sometimes required thousands of years occurred at other times in days. Liquids turned into solids, both into gases, and these again into liquids and solids. Sometimes the action of the fire was direct, sometimes concealed in water. After a change had taken place, it sometimes was succeeded in a short time by another, and at another times the continents and islands remained undisturbed for a long while. The lines between water and land and the elevations of the land have changed over and over again. Sometimes the land was slowly eaten away by the ocean or slowly decomposed by the air and washed away by rain and rivers. Sometimes the land was precipitated from the air. At other times, the air crumbled the land quickly and it was washed away like sand. Sometimes the water rose in mighty mountains engulfing the land. Sometimes the lands opened and subterranean ocean rushed over it. So the changeover in the on the earth crust.
Correct.
The direction of what is called the poles has changed many times, sometimes gradually, sometimes suddenly. Oh, even the pole, North Pole,
Hmm.
South
Yes, yes,
Pole also.
that is known. That is known. What is North Pole several thousands ago is not the same as the North Pole that we know of today.
So this also explains some of the rivers going missing, or
Yes.
suddenly overnight the ocean itself drying up, changing course.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
Sir,
fourth
it says
civilization means is the current civilization what we are going through? Or?
I think so.
Fourth.
Fourth is this one.
Yes. We are in the first civilization. Correct.
Oh,
The fourth earth,
The
which Bible talks, the Old Testament talked about. Yes.
Correct.
the direction of what is called the poles has changed many times, sometimes gradually, sometimes suddenly. The changes were adjustments to the sum of the thoughts of the people of the crust and were to provide a suitable environment for future destiny. A sudden change when the earth slipped or fell over was cataclysmic. That is catastrophic.
Correct.
Sudden change. During and after the readjustments, the climates changed. Where there had been a continuous summer, ice beds thousands of feet in depth buried the peoples, and icy regions were melted and exposed the land to a temperature or tropical sun.
See,
The directions of the
here, noting this point, probably that is what they were saying, that Africa continent is breaking away into two.
Yes.
And one
now,
portion of it may come and hit the western coast of India.
yeah, that's what
And
that's what you mentioned.
that
Yes.
could result in there being mountains higher than Mount Everest in that region.
But
And
it's going to happen after thousands of years, right?
we
Breakage
don't
and
know
the
when.
continent.
We don't know when. But basically, right? And along the western coast, he also says that the temperature may suddenly drop by 40 degrees. Drop by 40 degrees.
But
That's a
here
lot.
they're talking about we are the fourth civilization. The explanation they're giving as if Earth is almost it's a remake of Earth. But what we
No. This is in the fourth civilization. These things have happened before. Fourth civilization is not just the next 100 years.
Correct.
It's happened here. Continents moved, and right now, like Chandra has said, there is the clear evidence that the African continent itself is breaking up again into two and gradually moving towards the west coast of this India. When it will happen, we don't know.
Correct.
No, the process has begun, but by the time the whole landmass
We don't know when. We don't know when.
Yeah. Yes.
See, if collectively all of us think it should happen faster, it may manifest
Happen.
faster.
True.
Correct.
So that's what he's saying. The thoughts of the people are creating that situation.
Hmm.
And thoughts again go into F1 and F2. F1 and F2 being your, what do you call, the physical and the non-physical. Both are there, no? What you are conscious and what you are not conscious of. what is manifested and what is unmanifested. They go through both the pathways parallelly. Yeah. So let's continue, man.
Okay. During and after the readjustments, the climates changed. Where there had been a continuous summer, ice beds thousands of feet in depth buried the peoples, and icy regions were melted and exposed the land to a temperature or tropical sun. The direction of the poles is that of those of the earth crust only. The direction of the poles is that of the only earth crust it resembles. The
Yes.
layers on either side of the crust need not be polarized in the same direction as the crust.
They could
You
be
upon
any,
the,
yeah.
upon the direction of the poles of the crust depends on the recurrence of a possible fourfold cycle of an earth, water, and air, and a fire age of human beings.
So this could again go through your four yugas.
Okay. Okay. Depends on the recurrence of a possible fourfold cycle. Okay.
When you remind of the direction of the force, excuse me for a small digression. It's very interesting, the way the Earth is the angular at the poles. This is called the nutation of the Earth.
Correct.
It's called the nutation. Okay, it gradually changes. There's a beautiful movie many years ago I saw. It is called The Day the Earth Caught Fire. What happens is the nutation changes, and because of this, the Earth starts moving closer to the sun. And the whole Earth, it's called the day. The whole movie is one day.
Okay.
One day in a press office. Okay, in London, and suddenly you see Hyde Park catching fire. People are hit. Even the printing press, all ink starts becoming solid, gooey, and it's now people start, all the scientists discover what has happened. The reason for this they discover was because of nuclear bomb explosions. The nutation has changed, and because the change of nutation is moving towards the Earth. Now there's only one solution. They say, can we have strategic explosion, underground explosion, nuclear bombs at some strategic points
To
when it may
balance that.
change the nutation again?
Correct.
It may or may not succeed. And the ending is beautiful. So much suspense. So they show all the scientists agreed. This agreed, and the countdown starts. They show all places in the country. People are counting, loudspeakers. There's Taj to show India. There's a London Tower to show India. And there's a Statue of Liberty to New York, and so on. So countdown starts. And there is the press. They got two headlines there. The Earth is saved, the Earth is doomed. And that's where the movie ends. We don't know what happens.
Wow.
Beautiful movie. It's
I
called The
think I should
Day the
watch
Earth
it.
Caught Fire.
Yeah,
I don't know if
And
you can get it on
also the
YouTube.
poles, the polarity of the earth also changes, right? It had
Yes,
this changing has happened. Now it's going to
yes,
shift again. I think it's
that keeps ha-
going towards that, right? And
Yes.
that
ice
keeps happening.
ages, yeah,
That
ice
keeps
ages,
happening. Yes, I said yes.
they
Yes, I said
repeat,
yes.
and now we are approaching another ice age more faster because of the global warming that is happening.
Yes, yes, yes. You're right. Absolutely right.
Why always it is not exactly the same. It little changes.
Yes.
East west, yeah.
It will change to create more problems, more challenges based on the thoughts of the people. Can we
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. From,
Okay. So where are we?
from the
Yeah.
Magnetic. So the magnetic and
Upon the
electric connection.
here.
poles of the crust. Yeah. From the magnetic and electric currents on the earth today are drawn the forces used in industry, commerce, and travel, upon which modern development largely depends. The same current have not always been operative. They mark stages in the power of men's thought. So all this industry.
Even these thoughts, like Trump doing what he's doing and what's happening in India, what's happening in China and all, is a collective thought of that region. It is not one person doing it, and we can't blame him. Spiritually,
Yes, you're
we
right.
cannot blame a single person because he is only the conduit through which that is happening.
Correct.
Yeah.
What appears as magnetism is
An
An
expression.
expression of feeling in matter, and what appears as electricity is an expression of desire in matter. Wow. What appears as magnetism
It's a
is an
beautiful
expression,
sentence.
Correct.
yeah,
This is a very powerful
expression
sentence.
of matter, and what appears as electricity is an expression of desire in matter.
Mm.
So desire and feeling, magnetism and electricity. Yeah. Magnetic waves sweep through the strata of the earth as waves of feeling run through human bodies.
Mm. And as desires.
And as desires are evoked by these feelings, so electric currents are due to their actions in the fields of nature.
Mm.
So this is
how they come up. Yeah.
Yeah, desires are evoked by the feelings. Electrics are currents are due to their actions in the fields of nature. At different times in the past, different currents and forces operated not only in the earth, but in the water, in the air, and in the fire. And these currents produced phenomena which would seem strange to persons to whom none but the present manifestations are known. These currents and men's knowledge of how to use them gave to an age the character of an earth, water, and air or a fire age.
Mm. So these
So
four ages of civilization also went through this. That is what he's explaining. Yeah. Okay.
there were parts of the ocean which were seething. What is seething means?
Boiling.
Seeping, flowing, right?
No, not seething. Boiling.
Boiling. Okay.
Boiling.
Boiling.
Okay. Seething so that no animal life was possible in or near them. At some periods, the crust of the earth was of great weight and at the same time plastic like clay, and sometimes it moved in waves, but human beings lived on it. Wow. Rains of fiery bolts from the air, very colored lightning rising from the earth. That is what this nowadays, last year they have
Volcano. Yeah.
very colored lightning rising from the earth as well as coming from the sky, clouds of fire moving from the earth and discharging themselves or disappearing, battles of fire with fire in the air, wars of elementals in the water or the air occurred in different ages. So these are all the changes going
These
through.
are all the big bangs and the likes of the big bangs, and the cosmic wars, the flares.
Because I remember there is a name for that, the different colors we see in the sky.
Yeah, talking about that aurora borealis you're talking about.
Aurora borealis, correct.
No. This more than that. He's talking about different ages of different, not just aurora borealis.
It is not, okay. Forces now unknown were active and put to use by some of the people. So unknown forces were active and put to use by some of the people. At different periods, the relation of the four elements to each other changed. At one time, one element dominated the others, and at another time, it was subsidiary to one of the others. At times, there existed minerals, plants, and flowers which are no longer known. At one time, people used a bluish metal, which, after it had been treated in a certain way, became a medium for one of the nature forces and eliminated weight from any object to which it was applied. It had to be treated in one way for wood, in another way for stone, in another for metals. By the use of small amount of this small metal weights, many thousand times greater could be handled as if they were feathers. So that much weight also, it was very light. Huge blocks of stone were transported by its use. This explains how the pyramids were built. This metal had the
Potentially, yes.
Huge blocks of stone were transported by its use. This metal had the peculiar property of transmitting the influences of the object on which it was placed feeling. So these all happened at one time, that weightless thing.
So over time, different things have happening. Different, you're just explaining how things change, and
Correct.
there were times when you could. That is all. Not to be
No,
taken beyond that.
this second, the one highlighted in orange color, right? And the gray color. In Ayurveda, you have Trifula Churn. If you take it
What?
with water, Trifula Churn, the powder,
Digestive.
right?
Yeah.
See, if you take it with water, it will act as a digestant. If you take it with ghee, it becomes a purgative.
Oh. Yeah,
One
yeah.
material, but with different combination. You take it with honey, it will have the constipation related issue.
So it all depending upon what dominant element you are
Exactly.
taking.
Correct.
That is why this one, I mean, that Ayurveda exactly matches with this.
Yeah.
If a rod metal was held in the left hand and placed on an object, the holder would feel the qualities of the object, bitter, sour, or fragrant. If held in the right hand, the holder could harden or soften the objects, crumble or dissolve them. Wow.
All
So this
these
is all
are
happening.
characteristics, are all the sensitivities and all that of the units that make up that single human being.
Depending upon which unit is the dominant at that time. Another metal which was known at certain times was reddish, varying from a whitish red to ruby color. So before it was blue, you mentioned. Now it is red. By means of its gentle or enormous heat could be produced. The heat was generated from the air. So this red color is that is why we say it is heat, a symbol of heat.
No.
The heat was
This explains the book that I shared, which is the Knowing the Power of Colors and Color Therapy for Healing the Human Being.
It is also related to the elementals. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, by means of a
That combination within our body, each color has got a corresponding color of the organs and the one region of the human body, which is your Muladhara chakra, Swadhisthana chakra. Each of them have got a different color. Color is again vibration. So those components, if they are vibrating at that color or at that frequency, they are in harmony. Otherwise, disharmony. Yeah.
So the heat was generated from the air. A rod of this metal, if held by certain persons towards an object, would melt and consume it at a distance. This metal responded in its action to the intention of the holder. Only a certain trained class could use it. Even now, I say some people, when they hold a steel spoon, and with the thought they can bend it.
Yeah.
That is a different thing you're talking about. What he's talking about are different times, what kind of metals were available. That's all that is.
But he was saying that the intention of the human being, that's what
that is to hold. No, when you anything, even if you hold a knife, what it does is based on your intention. You want to cut a bread or cut somebody's throat, right? That's what we talked about.
Correct.
All these metals existed in the previous civilizations, and
Obviously.
So still.
No, see, it is a combination of your Panchabhutas. Panchabhutas are as what you call consistent as I mean, they have got nothing to do with which yuga.
Correct.
Everything is Panchabhuta. Manifestation is that in various forms. Yeah. Let's continue.
Okay. The two metals were known and used at the crest of some of the waves of a high civilization. Another metal, when applied to an object, caused oscillation in it or in the air, the force that worked through the metal being liberated by contact with the object.
So this is physioelectric property.
Okay, another metal. See, he is saying the two metals were known and used at the crest of some of the waves of a high civilization. Another metal, when applied to an object, caused.
Now he is talking about these. Specifically, every metal has got its own property.
Okay. It caused oscillations in it or in the air. The force that worked through the metal being liberated by contact with the object. Another
See,
metal caused.
That's a piezoelectric
this
piezoelectric
is the
effect.
piezoelectric property.
Effect, correct. The pineal gland is left.
Correct.
Another metal caused condensation of particles of matter in the air and produced any solid form desired. Another metal caused any solid object to be disintegrated and its particles to be shattered and to disappear, dissolved in its four elements. Some siddhis laga. These are all like, these are only some of many minerals.
See, just look at how this can be utilized by civilization today.
Mm.
These are properties. But what is driving it? The intent, the energies, the feelings.
Correct.
Correct. They can be manipulated.
Correct.
Go ahead. Yeah, go
Because happened depending upon the feelings and desires of the human beings. Another metal caused any solid object to be disintegrated and its particles to be shattered and to disappear, resolved in its four elements. These are only some of many minerals by which forces now unknown could be liberated, isolated, and directed. So this is how
they can be liberated, isolated, and directed. Keep that in the mind, because these are all things that can happen with the power of intention of a meditator. You can do all this.
So this explains like what you said your guru's guru did that
Yeah,
carving
exactly.
the
Yes.
golden statue like from
Exactly. Yes. Yes. There
So
was.
not only that, there are so many different minerals, depending on that chemistry chart. All these different, slowly over the time, there are so many different minerals formed, isn't it?
Yes.
Periodic table. So
Just
many
read
elements.
this. How beautifully he has structured this.
A black stone that seemed to be liquid and alive inside of its polished surface. It was placed on the forehead or on the top of the head. It would fascinate that person so that he revealed his thoughts without power of resistance, and the examiner could find out the truth concerning anything with which the one examined had been connected. In the black stone would also appear what had been said, done, seen, or heard by those who were made to look at it above. Amazing. So it is like a magic.
Too much.
There was another jewel through which, when it was shaped convex or concave, light of varying colors would be generated. That is like a crystal pyramid or something.
This is the prism.
Prism. Yeah, correct. Prism. A family of plants existed that would grow strong threads. There were numerous varieties that produced threads, which, when separated, were some as fine as silk, others as coarse as grass. These plants were in shape like pores, varied from sandy to dark brown, and opened at the top, shedding a profusion of fibers, which were the usable threads.
Look, these are all the changes that were happening to in the civilizations. That is what he is trying to educate us.
Mineral kingdom and plant kingdom.
This
He's saying
we can compare to what we read yesterday, because last night we were talking. The book talked about how our thoughts can manifest these animals and plants.
Correct.
So, which means at one point, whichever the civilization, so the humans existed in that specific civilization, their thought patterns might have created these type of stones and
quite likely.
Yeah.
Quite likely, yes.
So basically, see, he is saying they're making the like fabrics, color shades, and this. See, even now they are getting that jute from different plants only.
Yeah.
Use
Why
the jute
only
for
jute?
so many
Not only jute, so many other material, so many threads,
other.
so
Yes,
many threads. See you.
yeah, even the banana plant, they
Yeah.
use so many. So even now, yeah, all this happened. The plants were in shapes like posts, varied from sandy to dark brown. We use for fences and all this. Okay,
Right.
The
the
current
product,
thought patterns created the plastic then.
Yeah.
uh, what is that?
Our current thought patterns created the plastic, and now we are thinking how to get rid of it.
Correct.
The product ranged through all colors and their shades, and the people who wove into it fabrics. Some of these threads resisted destruction by fire, others were impervious to water. There were plants which were without roots and moved about, drawing nourishment from the air. Uh-huh. There were plants which were without roots and moved about, drawing nourishment from the air. There were flowers that furnished indelible colors. Flowers part of the plant and affecting the sense of smell, which represents the earth elements in the body when they were powerful in certain ages. Some flowers had fragrances and others stenches which were overpowering. They had odors which intoxicated, produced cataleptic states, poisoned and brought instant death. Some flowers, by their smell, incited to murder, lust, and or greed. Some brought on impotency, melancholy, or even self-murder. Even now, there are a lot of poisonous
Oh,
plants.
yeah.
The size of some flowers was over 3 feet. Oh, some flowers were over 3 feet. Some flowers flowing golden hair, others like thick wax. Some left their stems and floated in the air. Some flowers could. How can he imagine so much
I
in his
know.
head? My God.
All this
They
looks more like a cerebral gymnastics than
I
logic.
know.
And those flowers do exist. The biggest flower, which is about 3 feet, or a baby can fit into it. It's called Rafflesia, and it smells very bad. That does exist. It's there somewhere in Malaysia, somewhere that area, Indonesia, in those forests, I think, or in Amazon, one of those places.
Yeah.
Does exist.
3 feet flowers.
Yeah. A baby, an infant baby or a toddler, I think. To that extent, that size of a baby can sleep on that flower. That's how big that flower is. Yeah.
Yeah. Some flowers could be grown in almost any shape desired, and at certain times the shapes of lizards, birds, or butterflies were preferred. I mean, there are in Amazon. If we don't know, but nowadays we can see on YouTube or everywhere. Yeah,
Correct.
all these things.
Mm,
The leaves of trees were not always green, as they usually are today. At times, the general coloring was red or blue, or yellow or purple. Some of the leaves had odors and produced effects on human beings and animals, like those of some of the flowers. Some of the leaves looked like flowers, some like fur. At all times, flowers, leaves, and fruits were used in healing and in industry. At different times, the shapes and qualities of trees varied much. At times, some trees had a great diameter but were not proportionately high, and other trees reached heights uncommon today. Those are oak trees,
No.
like in California.
He's talking about
They
height.
were,
Yeah, there are today. He's talking about
yeah,
trees that were there existing. That's all.
they're very, very tall, I heard. There were trees that were hundreds of feet high. Yes. The very high trees had wood that was as supple and tough as whalebone. Some of the woods then known were indestructible by fire. Some were inflammable like straw. The wood in some of the trunks grew in geometrical figures of different colors. The wood of some trees and the sap of others furnished penetrating and indelible dyes. Though apples were there at all periods, in one form or another, many periods had fruits today unknown. At times, the flora furnished various juices which produced visions, were intoxicant or narcotic, either naturally or after they had been exposed to the sun or the moonlight. One kind of the tree grew a container like a gourd that was filled with a sweetish and pungent acid, which had an immediate penetrating effect as an intoxicant. These different types of plants, as well as the fauna of the various periods, were produced as they are today by the thoughts of man. Their nature was the desire of the doers, and their forms were the forms of their thoughts, standardized by a ruling intelligence according to type. At the beginning of the age, the animals were huge, ungainly, and fierce. As the age rose towards its crest, they gave way to more graceful and symmetrical shapes. Some were adapted to industrial and domestic purposes. Some of the fiercest and uh, clumsiest were brought under the human control. Huge fish with shells or scales were used as beasts of burden to pull rafts and boats through the water. Men could ride fish through the water and go under it with the fish. They could also make birds fly through the air while bearing human riders. In Purana, we all listen to all this in Puranas.
No, that is one thing. See, this also conveys a message that it was not only that they were breathing oxygen, they could be breathing something else. And in one of the book, I don't know whether it was Breath or Breathing Cure, he talks about there was a period of civilization where human beings used to breathe out oxygen and breathe in carbon dioxide for their survival,
Like plants.
like plants. And it so happened that the amount of oxygen started, the amount of carbon dioxide started going down. So the organelle that made the human being started mutating and adjusting to lesser and lesser amount of carbon dioxide, and the current species is living on oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide.
Yeah, I also read somewhere about this.
Yeah.
So we used to be like plants then. Yeah.
Right.
Some were adapted to industrial and domestic purposes. Some of the, yeah, we finished that. Since the first wave of the fourth civilization on the fourth earth, there have followed many waves. Uncounted years of physical time have elapsed since then. In each wave, there were many fluctuations and cycles. Sometimes a small, sometimes a large portion was affected. Sometimes the whole. Sometimes the trend of events was towards religion, at other times towards architecture, sometimes towards the discovery and application of the forces of nature. Sometimes the development was broader and intellectual as well as sensuous results were sought. At times, pursuits were limited to the land and people were afraid of the water. At other times, there were races of water people who lived chiefly on the water and were as familiar with it as the land people were with the earth. At times, human races mastered the air and could make use of the sunlight. When they discovered how to use starlight, they could protect themselves against fire so that they could move around in it. Such ages of earth, water, air, and fire have succeeded each other many times. When there was a rise of a great wave, sometimes all the four of ages blended. Then there was a rise of a great wave, sometimes all four of the ages are blended. At times, the run of human beings knew of nothing more than their physical environment. At other times, the screens were removed and the different states of matter on the physical plane were accessible. Even the other planes of the physical times opened, and nature gods and elementals were in communication with mankind. Probably this is the different period, this is the different yuga. For
Correct.
long ages, ages, interests and occupations were concerned with growing and winning and
And
winning,
winning.
winning products. Yeah, growing and winning products from the soil. At such times, there were great varieties of grains, fruits, plants used for food and clothing and in industry. And the pleasures and worships of the people had to do with these products. At other periods, the products needed for life and pleasure were produced artificially, that is, precipitated from the elements directly by the thought of man. Oh, by combinations of the elements, foods were produced as desired without growing them from the soil. All manner of wearing apparel. WhatsApp audio. Um,
What?
all manner of wearing apparel was drawn from the elements and produced in the form desired. Those who did this had to have the power of imagination and understanding of the qualities of the units in the four states of matter and power over them so that they could precipitate objects having durability, elasticity, flexibility, or porosity needed. So this is only just by the thought and with the elementals power they can manifest all this. This was in years when the fire and air were dominant and the bodies of the people of the age were in touch with them. So,
We'll
fourth
stop here.
civilization. Yeah, we'll stop here. Okay, let me exit because I have people